What is going on, everybody? Hope you're excited. What's going on, Drew? What's going on, Amber? Hope y'all can hear my mic. Yes, it certainly looks like that. So, guys, welcome in. We are back. I told you guys we'd be back Wednesday. This is a birthday week celebration because your boy getting old. So we're going to kind of celebrate that. I see Amber saying it's almost my birthday. Can you say happy early birthday? But again, it's an exciting week. We got a lot going on. I'm a little bit sick. I'm a little under the weather. So if you hear me pausing the mic, it's because I'm losing my stuff. But I hope you guys have had a great week. Right on cue. A lot of heckled stuff. I ended up going on a family thing. It was a family emergency, so I wasn't here. But we got a lot to cover. We got to talk about Donald Trump's corruption, how Donald Trump is probably doing some of this, like he's doing like a Watergate every week, right? We'll get to that. One of the things we're going to talk about is Jimmy Kimmel, some of the stuff that went on with that. We're going to talk about the stuff that's going on with ICE, Tom Homan. We're also going to talk about the UN, when Donald Trump went to the UN and made a big stink about it. And then everybody was kissing his ass. So without further ado, let's jump into the news. We got a lot to cover. Also, by the way, welcome in, Paul. We did get the poll out there. I did see what you guys wanted, and I saw that you guys wanted more debate content. So as such, I am looking for debate topics or debate opponents, somebody that we can debate. I'm working on trying to re-debate Andrew Wilson. We're trying to iron out some topics. I don't want to go over much of that, but we're hopefully going to get something with that. I'm working with trying to get more things like that. But anyways, one sec. Well, anyways, so more debate content is on the horizon. I apologize for not posting many videos in the past couple of weeks. As you can tell, I am sick, but the show must go on. All right, so let's go over here. I got to redo this window capture. Hold on one second, because your boy don't have stuff sorted out like I ought to. Let's see. I think this is it. Yep. All right. So let's talk about Jimmy Kimmel. Can I have a shout out, Hudson? I mean, I guess you're already there. All right, let's talk about Jimmy Kimmel. So long story short, Jimmy Kimmel went off the air because Donald Trump's FCC chairman, Brendan Carr, seemingly seemed to pressure ABC to remove Jimmy Kimmel. There are a few actors in here, and we'll go through this story because I think a lot of people right now that are talking about Jimmy Kimmel don't quite understand the full story. Yes, I do think that everybody stepping up, unsubscribing, and things of that nature definitely played a factor in it. I definitely think that had a factor in it, but I think the predominant factor here was mainly the lawsuit. I want to remind people it was ABC that ended up getting sued by the Trump administration and lost a significant portion of money. But we'll get into that. So let's go over the first one here. This was from, I believe, Monday, I'm sorry. Jimmy Kimmel's show is returning to ABC. Last Wednesday, we made the decision to suspend production of the show to avoid further inflaming a tense situation at an emotional moment for our country. Now, the original reason that the Trump administration gave was that, this is because Jimmy Kimmel had really bad ratings. Does this sound like that's the reason? No. It is a decision we made because we felt some of the comments were ill-timed and thus insensitive. We have spent the last few days having thoughtful conversations with Jimmy, and after those conversations, we reached the decision to return the show on Tuesday. Now, you might be inclined to go, okay, this is an amicable agreement to come back to the show. But what you didn't see was that Jimmy Kimmel actually was spotted at his lawyer's office after they pulled his show. Almost like he potentially had a contract that was violated. And then we saw Sinclair come out, which for anyone unaware, our news organizations are not independent. If you go to your local news organization, they are operated by a higher organization, and that being like Sinclair or Nexstar, things of that nature. Well, Sinclair, who is over certain regional broadcasting stations, said beginning Tuesday night, Sinclair will be preempting Jimmy Kimmel Live across our ABC affiliate stations and replacing it with news programming. Now, a little background here. There has been some kind of waves going through the air, if you will, that Nexstar and Sinclair have been wanting to merge. And what do they need to merge? They need FCC approval. So while ABC said, hey, we're going to air this, which spoiler they did, Sinclair said, no, we're not going to broadcast this out to our local affiliates. We then had Nexstar say the exact same thing, almost like there's a joint interest in this. And then Donald Trump, naturally being upset because that's how he rocks and rolls, is he said, I can't believe ABC fake news gave Jimmy Kimmel his job back. Pay attention to this wording. The White House was told by ABC that his show was canceled. The White House was told by ABC that his show was canceled. Almost like the White House may have pressed ABC to cancel his show. We already saw where Donald Trump over the past several months has gone after Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Fallon, Stephen Colbert, all those other actors. So interesting to note that he's saying that the White House was told by ABC. That's great. I have no idea how long I was muted. Let's see. Microphone check. 1 2 1 2 1 2. There it is. Okay. I have no idea how long I was muted. But thank you, Wes, because nobody caught that. And here I am now trying to recover. 20 seconds max. Okay. All right. Let's get back to it. So let's go back to this real quick. Thank you, Wes. So something happened between then and now because his audience is gone and something was never there. Now, this part here is really interesting. He said, last time I went after them, they gave me $16 million. Oh, that's what it was. That would be a major illegal campaign contribution. Donald Trump has a very interesting way of suing his opponents for legal loopholes. Here we can already see what he's trying to do. He's trying to paint this as an illegal campaign contribution by 99% positive Democratic coverage. If that's the case, who was the campaign contribution to? If that's the case, then what about Fox News? Fox News is like 100%. And mind you, I think this is hilarious to me that Donald Trump is complaining about the 99% Democratic coverage, yet he has numerous Fox News hosts and contributors in his administration. Rules for thee, not for me. But here's the thing. Jimmy Kimmel then went back on the air and he said, look, this is it right here. Here's I don't want to play because, again, copyright, but Jimmy Kimmel addressed the comments, and I'll read some of these just as it kind of helps. I don't think that what I have to say will make any difference. If you like me, you like me. If you don't, you don't. It was never my intention to make light of the murder of a young man. I don't think there's anything funny about it. It was never my intention to blame any specific group. This Andrew Colvin guy goes, not good enough, Jimmy. It's simple. Here's what you need to say. You can't make this up. I'm sorry for saying the shooter was MAGA. He was not. He was of the left. I apologize to the Kirk family for lying. Please accept. You can never appease MAGA. You can never appease MAGA. I think it was a fine apology. And to be very clear, nothing Jimmy Kimmel would have said would have appeased them. But that's not all. Don Jr. goes on to say, Jimmy Kimmel still refuses to admit that it was a leftist. They want him to come out and say that it was a leftist. I want to be very clear. We still don't know to this day. We can assume. We can assume that this was a leftist based on certain categorizations, but the problem is we still know that there is some terminally online issue with this. We don't really have a clear political affiliation, albeit you could say that he was not MAGA, sure, but nonetheless, they want them to come out. We really can't do. Yeah, exactly. The problem is they want him to come out when they themselves don't even know it. Here's the reality, and is that MAGA loves to politicize tragedies. We saw this whenever we had Donald Trump's first address to Congress. When they put up the young boy with cancer, the Laken Riley Act. You know, I remember all throughout the election, them saying Jocelyn Nungary, Laken Riley. Now after the election, guess what? Poof, it's gone. We now see this with the Charlie Kirk incident, politicizing this to no end. Going out to the Arizona stadium, turning it into a campaign rally, which we did not cover, and I don't care to cover it at this moment anyways. Going out there and doing these things. Now, we also had a tragedy happen today in Dallas where a individual went out and murdered 3 people, all of which were ICE or detainees. Okay? But here's the thing. Fox News goes on to say, this is why Jimmy Kimmel needed to say, I'm sorry, and he didn't, and he needs to. This, by the way, was at noon. The story had been fresh for less than an hour. And Fox News came out and said, this is why Jimmy Kimmel needs to apologize. We don't even know, right? We've got this anti-ICE ammo, but we don't know anything about this individual yet. I don't even think at this time we knew who it even was. And they're jumping and leaping to conclusions because they are incredibly desperate to try to politicize. We saw this during the election. During the election, we saw where they tried to divide migrants. Remember, they said we're only going after the criminals. Remember that? Remember so this is the thing. Hold on one second. So this is the thing. When we talk about these, we have to stop politicizing these and stop trying to sit there. Oh, that's what it was. That's what I was going to say. When the migrants were going out, they kept saying we're only going to criminals, but they didn't. They revealed that they weren't going to do that. And now they continue to try to divide. I've talked about it for several weeks now. You look at how Joe Biden handled his administration. You saw how Obama handled his administration. This president is not trying to unify this country. He is actively seeking, trying to divide right from left. How is that unifying in any meaningful way? They're actively trying to paint one part of the political spectrum. And I want people to remember this. For everything that Donald Trump does is giving permission to the left to do as well. So when you MAGA are upset and crying because the left has decided to, I don't know, censor you guys, which you guys hated and now love. When they try to other you guys, I don't want to hear crying. And so what I want to read from here is J.D. Vance, and we'll watch this as well, said, what government pressure have we brought to bear to tell people that they're not allowed to speak their mind? And as Home of the Brave says, maybe it was your FCC chairman going on a podcast and demanding Kimmel be suspended, saying we can do this the easy way or the hard way. There's no doubt they're trying to do everything they can to remove any opposition voices. Donald Trump has sued numerous news organizations. This is intimidation at its fullest extent. That's exactly what this is. It's intimidation. Spartacus, what's going on, buddy? What's going on there? Ozzy said, the left already took everything from us for 4 years. You think we're afraid of that now? We're trying to take them out of the game. We're going to make laws that make it so they can't act. Go on and try. Because remember, whatever you guys set the bar to, the left will do as well. Meaning, legally, if you try to do anything to silence the left's voice, so will to the left. I'm struggling over here. Trump daddy's on it. Okay. I don't really have time for a lot of these games. I'll be honest with you. Jack, come on. I don't want the normal week ass shit. He might hear with real. Exactly, Wes. It's the same old every week. So if they can't provide a good argument, you can go somewhere else. I don't care. His viewership was 170,000 people. Yeah. And guess what? You guys made a martyr out of him. Because guess what? Now he got 6 million viewers because of it. Yo, this is brutal. Brutal, I tell you. Can you explain why the far right believes in biology but not in science and medicine? Yeah, that's who Mr. Bigglesworth. The right now doesn't believe in science. Over there saying Tylenol causes autism. It's crazy. They go to the good old MAGA cult handbook for any responses. Yeah, and you'll see that too play out, right? Whenever there's a tragedy, a lot of them kind of like spread out with their own opinions. And then as the talking points get spread out there, they kind of just like funnel into the MAGA herding pen, if you will. And I said herding as in HERDING. It's one of the 14 points. Yeah, I've seen that as well, Raiden. I mean, look, here's the thing about me, right? I'm trying to be as optimistic as I can and say, look, there's a time where Democrats will come into office and they will turn things around. But my optimism is turning more into pessimism because we're seeing our rights be trampled on every week. A growing concern of mine is the fact that they are trying to other a particular side. Initially, they're starting out with Antifa, which was crazy to begin with, which we'll get to. And then they slowly are going to work their way back. This is exactly what they did with migrants, right? They said, we're going after the criminals. And then guess what? Then they go after the mother who's working their 9 to 5 and ripping her away from her child. Right now, they start with Antifa, but then they start to prosecute their Democratic opponents, and then they start to punish in some form or another, stifling free speech of those on the left. Where does it end? Mods, feel free to ban whoever you like. I'm over it. Basically, they will label anybody who disagrees with them as Antifa and jail them. Yeah, that's my concern, right, Mr. Bigglesworth? I don't care. All right. Let's go on to the next story here. So here's the crazy story about this. So Tom Homan got into some trouble it was found out that Tom Homan was being looked into by the FBI for taking $50,000 in cash for favorable contracts, essentially. And when he came into office with Pam Bondi, guess what? They conveniently dropped the investigation. He was confronted about this on Fox News, surprisingly. Ingram says, they said you took $50,000 in cash in a bag from an undercover FBI agent. He said, I did nothing criminal or illegal, but didn't answer the question. In fact, the Senate Judiciary Committee is starting to look into this as well. And it's quite long. They're basically saying that we need to go through and look at this. These are some of the questions they want to be answered. When were you made aware that there was an open and ongoing investigation? They want Pam Bondi to answer these questions, which I think she rightfully needs to do, because we also saw the same thing with the Epstein files. Remember when that was a key thing that, oh my goodness, this is going to be the most transparent administration ever. It's turned out to be the complete opposite. And then we seen, I can't play the audio, so I'm going to try to mute this. I can't play the audio, but you can kind of you can hear the audio as this plays. This is what our Homeland Security is playing on their X pages. And what you'll see is the Pokemon theme song in the background. Now, we already know, and I think someone in the comments put incoming lawsuit, because we can already imagine they did not get permission to use the graphics, use the audio, things of that nature. But here's the crazy thing. Tom Homan, talking about the California Governor Newsom, says he ought to be thanking ICE and thanking President Trump for making his state safer. Every public safety threat we take off his streets makes the community safer. Please, MAGA, enlighten me on how the mother who goes to her 9 to 5, the father who's working, trying to make $1 for his family at Home Depot, is a public safety threat. They use this language to divide the country. You see, Republicans, namely MAGA, don't feel any effects unless it affects them. But they're easily able to do this. It's amazing to me to watch the inhumane treatment of these individuals. And I've seen crazy things. There was a video I saw where an ICE agent was saying something along the lines during the thing. Yo, thank you for becoming a member, Big Ten. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. Appreciate it. I'd love to see you and Andrew Wilson have a chat. Thanks, Big Ten. Yes. So me and Andrew Wilson did debate initially, and I do intend to have a debate. Thank you very much for that membership. Listen, guys, real quick, I'll take this moment. If you have not hit the like, subscribe, notification bell, please do that already. Our goal is to hit 50 likes this stream. It is also my birthday week, so if you feel so inclined, feel free to, throw a little dineros. That's up to you. We are trying to make this a full-time gig. I've got a few things down the pipeline. You guys requested, and I will provide a debate in the near future, probably here in the next couple of weeks. I'll try to line up some people. But anyways, that's enough of the grift. Let's go ahead and keep getting on it. Yeah, no problem, Big Ten. All right, let's keep going. So Laura Ingram said, thank you, President Trump, for making the state safer. Yeah, so the problem is they're going in and they're labeling all of these groups as public safety threats, and they're just not. They're just not big safety threats. We also saw where this happened over the weekend. I don't think I covered this. They now revealed that the U.S. has exploded 3 boats now in international waters. Why not just stop them and board them to stop the flow of drugs? Marco Rubio says because interdiction doesn't work. I want you to remember that. Interdiction doesn't work, right? Okay, here's the problem with this. The Coast Guard released video footage showing the interdiction of a cartel semi-submersible. Not just a boat, a semi-submersible. Now, I'll show the video here. It's not very long. I'll show the video here. Look at this. Huh. Now, if I go over here, let's go back. Let's rewind this a little bit, right? Let's go back a little bit. Marco Rubio said because interdiction doesn't work. Yeah, it works. It works. So again, it's crazy to me that, they're going to sit there and talk about how it doesn't work, but it clearly works. And I've seen in chat somebody say that this video is old. If you have any evidence of that, please provide it. But nonetheless, even if it were old, it still shows interdiction does work. And I don't think we need to just, inherently start booming or blowing up boats in the middle of the international waters. So go to the next one here. I think that's it. Oh, so here's the other one. We saw Trump's EO designating Antifa as a domestic terrorist organization is worded so that anyone protesting ICE agents, filming or asking them for ID or informing people of their rights can be charged as a domestic terrorist. Now, here's the thing. Look at how they are treating these particular groups. It's not just about trying to charge them with a particular charge, right? This is much more, how do I put this? Heinous, if you will. We've seen how they treat groups that are considered domestic terrorist organizations, DTOs. For example, in Venezuela, the argument has been, if we look at the boats, and this is a very interesting case because I brought this up before. The arguments I heard for why they were allowed to do what they did to those groups in Venezuela was because they were a domestic organization. If that's the case, where does that end? Do we start using inherently lethal force on Antifa just because they're considered that group? Is that what we're doing? So again, it's kind of crazy to me. Now listen, you may have your opinions about Antifa. I may even have them about them, right? I think as someone who is a former conservative, I think there are certain bad actors in that particular group. But I don't think going about it in this way is the right way to do this, namely because of how this administration has used this characterization. This characterization has been used to essentially infringe on the rights of all sorts of people. In this case, it would be used to infringe upon the rights of otherwise American citizens. That concerns me. Whatever my beliefs may be about Antifa, okay, it concerns me dearly to label this group this kind of a designation. Not to mention how they define, and that's what this tweet says, is very broad. You see, Trump's CEO designated Antifa as a domestic terrorist organization where it's so that anyone protesting ICE agents, filming or asking them or informing people of their rights can be charged. It'd be one thing, okay, look, I'm not advocating for this executive order by any means. It'd be one thing if they kind of laid out more specifically, but this is broadly worded for a very particular reason. And keep in mind, right, that how this is going to be moved forward is, again, it starts with this, but then it's going to move its way down, right? It's eventually going to move its way down. So then we had the ICE incident happen in Dallas, which I'd already went over in the previous story, but if anyone hasn't, saw that or whatever, basically there was somebody on a rooftop in Dallas who fired upon an ICE office. Immediately, the right came out and said, this is them trying to harm ICE. We didn't even know their intentions, right? And again, there was some scribbled markings on one casing that said anti-ICE, and we still don't know what motive that individual had other than that one wording on there. So anyways, Marjorie Taylor Greene goes on to say, I'm praying for the brave men and women of ICE and those who were targeted and shot at the ICE Dallas facility. And as Micah said, no ICE officials were shot. 3 immigrants were. And here's Kash Patel showing this photo. And you can see it looks like someone with a pen wrote on it. Now, the conspiracy theories were going wild because it does look like it could have been done with a ballpoint pen. But again, we don't know much about this individual. And people were roasting Kash Patel because he's the director of the FBI. And the last thing they need to be doing is putting out evidence. And again, this is the big issue as we look at what happened with Charlie Kirk. One of the big issues is how quick Kash Patel came out about the case, which ended up potentially messing up the Charlie Kirk case. In the same light here, any comments he puts out can damage a case. Now, granted, this individual is no longer alive, sure, but quite odd that he'd put this out this early in the investigation. But nonetheless, Donald Trump also had something to include in this. And this is where it gets kind of crazy. Yes, Jesse Patel is incompetent. And I think it's what happens when you put a podcaster in charge of the FBI. So one other thing we had was Donald Trump said, I've been briefed on the deadly shooting at the ICE field office in Dallas. It has now been revealed the deranged shooter wrote anti-ICE on his shell casings. This is despicable. The brave men and women of ICE are just trying to do their jobs and remove the worst of the worst. I didn't know the mother who's trying to feed their family is considered the worst of the worst, but it's nice to know. So criminals out of their country, but they're facing an unprecedented increase in threats, violence, and attacks by deranged radical leftists. This violence is the result of the radical left Democrats constantly demonizing law enforcement, calling for ICE to be demolished, and comparing ICE officers to Nazis. Here's the thing, okay? Again, we don't have any motivation right now on this individual. And Donald Trump is immediately jumping to say this is because of radical left Democrats. Based on what? In fact, there was evidence of a vehicle that may have been the suspects. I haven't checked up on it, where it was like some kind of crazy thing about nuclear fallout. This dude could be completely mentally out of that. And I think this is the problem is that the left would sit there and say this is a mental health problem for a long time. So is it a mental health problem? Or is it a messaging problem from the left? Or is it that you guys are radicalizing your base as well? ICE officers and other brave members of law enforcement are under grave threat. We have already declared Antifa a terrorist organization. I'll be signing an executive order this week. So more executive orders to dismantle these networks. I'm calling on all Democrats to stop this rhetoric against ICE and America's law enforcement right now. The Trump administration is fully committed to backing law enforcement. Here's the funny part about this. The Trump administration is fully committed to backing law enforcement. What about those January 6th pardons that you gave to all those individuals? What happened to that? Backing the blue until it's your guys. Deporting violent illegal criminals. Again, violent illegal criminals. Well, why is the mother being deported? And fully rooting out the left-wing domestic. See, the irony in this is he's saying, you, the left, need to tone down your rhetoric, but by calling them at the same time radicals. What do you think that does to your base? It's abhorrent rhetoric. And I think this is why when you talk with like the people at Destiny, who has been very, very out there in the news because of some of his takes, I think I get why he says what he says. While the left goes, yeah, you're right, we need to tone down our rhetoric. This is the kind of messaging we get from the right. The right says you need to tone down. Think about the doubles, the speaking out of both sides of their mouths. You need to tone down the rhetoric, you radical left Democrat lunatic. Just think about that. You just called us the same thing we call you. When are you going to tone down your rhetoric? So I understand and I get why Destiny says what he's saying there. Now, I want to be very clear. I may not condone everything Destiny says, but I understand that sentiment of like, hey, okay, we can continue to, take the high ground, but you're not taking the high ground. And it makes total sense. Exactly. They can do it, but the other side can't. So I'll read through this chat. Hey guys, do me a favor. If you haven't hit that like, subscribe, notification bell, please hit that like, subscribe, notification bell. It would do me a huge favor in the algorithm. I need to pull this up real quick. Hold on 1 second. 1 second here. All right. I gotta get my wife to get the dog out. All right. Thank you, Sparkus. Yes, hit that like, subscribe. Yeah, the distraction and nonsense, the Epstein files. Yeah, exactly. They're not going to bring back the Epstein files. They're gone. This administration is a joke and does not know what they're doing. 100%, Ryan. He knows what it does. They say these things on purpose. The right can do no wrong. The excused right-wing extremists on Fox saying they are responding. Let's see. Your left actions are lawless. Yes, and a fascist state is a feature. Trump has 34 felonies and he calls Democrats. That's the funny thing about it, John, right? Is that he's got 34 felonies and they call the right or the left criminals. Tanaj says, notice how quiet Trump and the Republicans were when 3 police officers aren't allowed to rope his video. Good point. All right. Let's talk about this. Let's see. So, guys, we're at 23 likes. We got over 188 people. Hit that like, subscribe, notification bell, please. If you can, that would be great. And we can get up there to 50 likes. That's our goal, 50 likes. All right. So, Donald Trump gave a speech to the UN, the United Nations, and it was terrible. But it wasn't his speech so much that got... it wasn't so much his speech that got him in trouble. It was the escalator. So Donald Trump went onto an escalator right after his assistant went up the escalator. And the moment Donald Trump stepped on the escalator, that escalator stopped. And now we get escalator gate. Before I get to this, we'll talk about this in a second. Big Ten said, I'm in the middle here. I can't stand where the left is, but the right has to be held accountable too. And this is the thing, Big Ten. I told you guys many times, I am a former conservative, someone who voted for Trump the first time, okay? And the second time, unfortunately, but that's a different story. That was 2020. Mistake to the fullest extent. I voted for Kamala Harris in 24. The problem is that the right, the Republicans they never had any values, but they especially don't have any values now, right? It's insane. All right, let's continue on. So anyways, escalator gate. Here's what happened is that numerous individuals were saying, now you had numerous big individuals, Caroline Leavitt, if someone at the UN intentionally stopped the escalator, they need to be investigated. You had Cernovich saying what happened today at the UN was a dry run for an assassination. What in the world? Alex Jones, of course. Sabotage. Escalator at the UN HQ stops abruptly when Trump steps onto it and teleprompter malfunctions before he begins speaking. Here's the funny thing about this. I remember during the campaign when they said Donald Trump didn't need a teleprompter. He should have been fine because he didn't need a teleprompter, didn't he? Oh, but he does need one. I remember that very vividly when they got all upset about Kamala Harris and her teleprompter use. What about Donald Trump and his teleprompter? But here's the crazy thing. A UN official said the UN understands that someone from the president's party who ran ahead of him inadvertently triggered the stop mechanism on the escalator. It was himself. It was his own party. And here's video of the incident taking place here. You can see as Donald Trump gets on the escalator. You can see and so watch this video back a little bit. So you'll see this guy up here. There's these two up here that are walking, right? And then watch the moment they step on it, it stops. Now here's the funny thing about this. Okay. By the way, here's the funny thing about this. And I noticed this. Look at this escalator. Now I said this from the very beginning. They stop here. Watch this. Look at this escalator. When it stops here, look at this. It still went up. But I don't know if they're going to show it. He proceeds to walk up the one that isn't working. He could have just gone to the other escalator and just taken that other escalator. He could have done that, but he didn't. And then here's the teleprompter incident.
Very much appreciated. Very much appreciated. And I don't mind making this speech without a teleprompter, because the teleprompter is not working. I feel very happy to be up here with you nevertheless, and that way you speak more from the heart.
So again, it's crazy to me to watch this, because again, he did eventually get the teleprompter up, but I want you to see something that's really interesting. I don't have the video here, but he gets frustrated very, very quickly when it's not going his way. There was an incident where he went to a Washington, D.C. restaurant, and there were some Palestinian people there that were protesting him, and he was pissed. He was like, "Get them out, out," and freaking out about it. So again, but here's the thing: the teleprompter was operated by his own organization. Waters here saying it does appear to be sabotage with the escalator and the teleprompter. Levitt says it appears that way to me. If we find these were UN staffers who are purposely trying, like they're creating conspiracy theories out here. It's crazy to me. And so you can see here, Trump has endlessly insisted he doesn't need a teleprompter and mocked his opponents for using it. And it was his own staff that stopped the escalator. No teleprompter can ever really help Trump much anyway, because he's basically illiterate. But then you had Fox and Friends, the propaganda arm. Remember, it's not okay when Jimmy Kimmel spews 99% Democratic propaganda, but it's okay when Republicans do it, or Fox and Friends does it. Fox and Friends said, you secure the button if you have the leader of the free world on the escalator. Is it a coincidence? You had the teleprompter go down, you had the escalator stop. Katie Pavlich said in the press room, when the president started talking, the volume went down significantly. Everything to these guys is the snowflake victim mentality. I remember when conservatives would cry about the snowflakes, and now look at them. The biggest snowflakes are MAGA. But that's not all. Because despite the teleprompter going out, despite the abhorrent speech, we had his MAGA Congress making sure they do their proper ring kissing circles. Graham said, this guy is a cross between P.T. Barnum and Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan would be ashamed to see the Republican Party be the way it has. And then he says, God bless you, President Trump. I hope he runs again. And Lindsey Graham saying, Trump 2028, I hope this never ends. But then when this senator, I forgot who this guy is, or John Thune, sorry. Of course. Bash says, so no Trump 2028. And John says, well, I know Lindsey has said that before, and I think he generally expects a pretty lighthearted. No, they don't. Mind you, we've already seen where one of the Congress members put forth an amendment. I forgot his name off the top of my head. Put forth an amendment to allow Donald Trump to run for a third term. Now, it would not pass, and I'm sure there's going to be ways that they're going to try to find a legal loophole to bring Donald Trump back into office for 2028. Again, he's old as dirt. He's old. He's old. Republicans are crazy. For all the talk that they talked about Joe Biden being too old, Donald Trump will be the oldest president in U.S. history when he leaves office. But that's not all. Because then Energy Secretary Chris Wright on the silence and lack of applause during Trump's UN speech, because there was not really much around applause, because he pretty much told the entire UN that they're going to go to hell. He said everyone was listening. I think a lot of the world maybe not brave enough to cheer like that during his speech. Delusional. But that's not all, because Mike Walls, after his first interview as Trump's UN ambassador, which mind you, Mike Walls was the guy behind Signalgate. If If you don't remember that, okay, where he brought in one of the press guys in on a mission and revealed top secret information. Anyways, he goes, he absolutely deserves the Nobel Prize. You had DeSantis saying, I thought today was one of the best speeches Trump's given on international affairs. I mean, look, you talk about Trump derangement syndrome. I don't know how it gets more deranged than this. And you see, this is the kind of environment that this Republican Party has fostered. You have to kiss Trump's ring. This is something world leaders know very well. You just have to tell Trump that that you got to inflate his ego and you get all sorts of benefits. If you're friends with Trump, you get benefits. If you're not friends with Trump, you don't get any benefits. And let me be very clear. It's not even really so much not friends. Rather, are you, talking positively? You can take a neutral stance, really. So, anyway, it's pretty crazy. But it's not all, because it made its way to Truth Social. Donald Trump was quite upset about the UN escalators fiasco. A real disgrace took place at the United Nations yesterday. Not one, not two, but three very sinister events. Sinister. First, the escalator going up to the main speaking floor came to a screeching halt. It stopped on a dime. It's amazing that Melania didn't fall forward onto the sharp edges of these steel steps. What? Face first. It was only that we were each holding the handrail tightly or it would have been a disaster. This was absolutely sabotage, as noted by a day's earlier post in the London Times that said UN workers joked about turning off an escalator. The people that did it should be arrested. Then, as I stood before, now, mind you, what crime would they be arrested for? What crime? He's already saying they should be charged with the crime. Then, as I stood before a television crowd of millions of people all over the world and important leaders in the hall, my teleprompter didn't work. It was stone cold dark. I immediately thought to myself, wow, first the escalator event, now a bad teleprompter. What kind of a place is this? I then proceeded to make a speech without a teleprompter. Wrong. Which kicked in about 15 minutes later. The good news is the speech has gotten fantastic reviews. No, it hasn't. Maybe they appreciate the fact that very few people could have done what I did. And third, after making the speech, I was told that the sound was completely off at the auditorium where the speech was made, that world leaders, unless they use the interpreter's earpieces, couldn't hear a thing. Now, I want you guys to think about this for just a minute. He says that they couldn't hear a thing. He was in the same auditorium. The first person I saw at the conclusion of the speech was Melania, who was sitting right up front. I said, how did I do? And she said, I couldn't hear a word you said. Again, don't know how true that is. This wasn't a coincidence. This was triple sabotage at the UN. They ought to be ashamed of themselves. I'm sending a copy of this letter to the Secretary General, and I demand an immediate investigation. No wonder the United Nations hasn't been able to do the job that they were told to do. So that happened. Oh my God. So we have to remove certain things. You got to be careful on TOS words in chat, please, guys. I may agree with you in some aspects, but we have to be careful on TOS words. That's all. You're evil fake news leftist. Okay, then I don't know why you tune in. Go somewhere else. Charlie Kirk. Okay, so here's the update on Charlie Kirk. First of all, I would love for MAGA to tell me when we're able to criticize any of Charlie Kirk's views, because apparently you weren't allowed to do it right, a day or two after the Charlie Kirk incident took place. But when are we allowed to criticize Charlie Kirk's views? And to be very clear, the way that they are treating, I think I have a few things set up here to talk about this. Right? Like when can we talk about that? Secondly, let's be very clear. Once again, never let a tragedy go to waste. This was a huge advertising moment for Turning Point. Huge advertising moment. They had all eyes on this event on Sunday. I believe it was Sunday. You had Erica Kirk, who now, why she became CEO of Turning Point, allegedly, which I don't know how true this is, was because that's what Charlie wanted, which doesn't seem outlandish. But nonetheless, It's not like the organization dissolved. It's still very much going. And at the invitation, by the way, when you could RSVP to this event in Arizona, at the very, very bottom of it, you can see where you can donate to Turning Point. So they're capitalizing on this. And that's crazy to me. You can say that what happened to Charlie Kirk, which I agree was absolutely abhorrent, but you can also say at the same time, they're capitalizing on this. And I think that's equally disgusting. I think to sit there on a tragedy of back of somebody being killed, that you go in, decide to, what should have happened here, quite frankly, if you didn't want to capitalize on it, then you wouldn't have charged anything. You wouldn't have been taking donations. You would have said, no, this is not a donation event. It's a free event. Whoever wants to come is allowed to come. You would take money out of your own pocket, if you will, to bring in some of these guests. The fact that they're taking in money from this tragedy says everything. So, yeah. But anyways, let's move forward with this story. I love some of these people that come in here. It's crazy. Oh. Y'all, I've been up since 7 or 5, really. And my voice is like nearly completely destroyed. All right, we're almost done. Hey, make sure you hit that like, subscribe, notification bell if you haven't already. We're at 384 people. I believe we've hit our goal. We're at 43 likes. Let's get up there to 7 likes. Okay, 7 people. Okay, 7 big and ruse. This is my birthday week. So if you feel so inclined to donate or feel inclined to become a member, feel free to do so as well. We're working to try to get this up to a full-time stream and a full-time gig. I think 384 people is a pretty sizable audience. We're now down to 257, but nonetheless. And my voice is going out. I'm breaking my voice for you guys, okay? All right. So let's go on here. So call it the Trump effect. The percentage of people saying their household financial situation is getting worse has gone from 35% to 60%. Vast majority of people are no longer able to afford basic goods. Ingram even admitted this, which is shocking, saying, I went to the grocery store, $33 for 2 steaks at the grocery store. They weren't fancy steaks. Prices are going up, y'all. And this is why Trump's approval rating is tanking. We are down to 41% approval rating. It's insane. By the way, Donald Trump's approval rating is much lower than his predecessor. Joe Biden had a very high approval rating at this same time. We also saw hiring has now slowed to its lowest pace in a decade, excluding the dip at the beginning of the pandemic. Hirings are down. In fact, we're seeing job losses. Inflation is going up. We're seeing tariffs take their effect. And it's going to get more dramatic. Yo, thank you for the subscriptions, you guys. Joe and Kathy, thank you. We also saw Brooke Rollins saying something that's quite intriguing. Saying, where is it here? Oh, soybean, corn, wheat, sorghum, cotton farmers are facing very difficult times. We saw, Corbin, 199 with that. Yo, sup, my G, you look gorgeous as ever. I may look gorgeous, but I sound like my throat has been absolutely destroyed. That did not sound right. But my throat is like really messed up right now. But thank you for the donation, my man. Appreciate that. Hope you're doing good. By the way, guys, Corbin Sales is a fellow YouTuber. He's someone who helped me debate Andrew Wilson. So go check out that view and go check him out as well. Huge shout out to Corbin Sales. But anyways, so back to this. They're looking now that they need to provide a farmer's aid package. Soybean exports have dramatically decreased. China was the leading export in soybeans, and now they have not exported any. Hold on one second. Sorry, my dog's over here trying to get some, trying to play around. Okay. We also saw the president repeatedly did say, though, that he would end the war on day one. We're talking about Ukraine. Yo, 199, throat has been destroyed. Look, Corbin, look, I had like a cold for the past couple of weeks, and it's getting better, but when I talk, it obviously messes it up. So I'm probably going to take some like throat lozenges or something. But yeah, it's been destroyed. Yeah, it's been destroyed. Drink with Charlie. Big 10. That was a joke. Oh boy. I'm sitting there like, oh, that's going to sound bad. And you're like, mint tea and lemon. I was like, oh, how close. Anyways. Mr. R said, just went on Indeed for my area, 52,000 now hiring ads. Sure, nobody's saying that jobs aren't hiring, but there's been net losses. Okay. But yeah, Marco Rubio saying, yeah, but that's not us in the war now because they're back in track. This one was pretty crazy. So the Presidential Walk of Fame at the White House features an auto pin in place of President Biden's photo. So you can see Obama, Trump, and now they thought it was cute and funny to put a auto pin. Mind you, Trump has used numerous auto pins. Here's where we get to the Charlie Kirk stuff. Charlie Kirk, Republican lawmakers are introducing a bill to issue 400,000 silver dollar coins in 2026, featuring Charlie Kirk and the phrase, well done, good and faithful servant. Here's my thing. Again, when we talk about how the right and MAGA have absolutely perverted the Christian faith, I don't doubt for a second that Charlie may have been a Christian. I don't doubt that, actually. Now, granted, some of his values were certainly misaligned with that of normal Christian followers. But the issue that I have here is that the right, again, is capitalizing on it, right? Because, again, Charlie Kirk was a figure on the right. He was a large figure on the right. This idea of putting his face on a 400,000 silver dollar coins that go into circulation is, in essence, a campaign, right? It's a campaign to say, look, every time you pick up a silver dollar, now granted, there's silver dollar coins, and I don't know many people who have them, but nonetheless, it's a grift. It's what it is. It's a grift. We also saw where Oklahoma Superintendent Warren Walters, which this guy, by the way, has been in some serious hot water. He was accused of having some not so great images on his computer when two female coworkers came in and had a meeting with him. Not great look. He also tried to put Trump Bibles into classrooms. And now he's saying that they want to put Turning Point USA chapters into every school in Oklahoma. Think about that. Imagine, and Texas did this a little bit, by the way. Texas did this where they said, we're going to allow prayer in school. Watch how quickly MAGA parents get upset because a student goes, well, I don't believe in praying to a Christian God. I'm Muslim. Watch how quick that happens. Or a teacher is Muslim. Watch a teacher's Muslim and she, recites the Quran. I know how well that'll go. I lived through the 2000s. I lived through all that Islamophobia. So I know damn good and well how that would work. And we also saw this. This is a good way to kind of top off the night. Breaking news, it's out of the Eastern District of Virginia. By the way, the same Eastern District of Virginia, I believe, that we just saw where Trump tried to remove the district attorney because they did not press charges against Letitia James. Well, now they're trying to press charges against Comey, despite prosecutors advising against that. Lastly, thank you for that subscription. My voice is going to be destroyed tomorrow. My voice is going to be destroyed. Lastly, we had Hakeem Jeffries saying, Donald Trump agrees to our demand on Saturday. I'll just kind of sum this up to save myself some words. Basically, what happened was Donald Trump is going to lead us into a shutdown. Remember that landslide that we were promised? Remember when we said that landslide was what we were going, how Republicans won? They won by a landslide. Well, now because they don't have the votes to put forth their spending bill, the government will be shut down. And I think Democrats need to do more of this. I think that Democrats need to do their best to try and resist. And what I mean by this is, look, y'all said y'all won by a landslide. Own it. Own it. We're not going to help you. You're on your own. And we need that. And this is the problem I have with Hakeem Jeffries is that Hakeem Jeffries is kind of like a mix between Chuck Schumer and AOC, right? He kind of has that more modern, hip personality than Chuck Schumer, but he still kind of has that old school way of politicking. And I think we need more resistance than we need agreement when it comes to Congress. And so again, seeing this, I thought was crazy because again, and now there's rumors circulating that Donald Trump has informed Republicans to not talk, like just not even talk with Democrats. So overall, it's been pretty crazy. It's been a crazy week. We're getting kind of close. We're cutting it a little early than normal. I think we cut it at 9. But you guys voted that we're going to do more debates, and we will do more debates. That is on the schedule. I need to set these up. I will look into trying to do an Andrew Wilson debate again. I'm going to try to look into other debates that I can debate with people on. I will try to be more calm. Admittedly, when I was doing the Andrew Wilson debate, I was a little bit nervous, and naturally that kind of carried away into my rhetoric. But you guys are awesome. I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to go get a throat lozenge and I'm going to probably eat some or drink some mint tea with some honey, actually. And please hit that like, subscribe, notification bell if you haven't already. Please do so. I would greatly appreciate it. We stream Wednesdays and Fridays. So Friday, I will be back on here and we will be streaming and talking about the news between Wednesday and Friday. And assuming that there's no debates that pop up between now and then, we might also do a one-off stream on Thursday for a debate. I think there's some debates that happen on Thursday, but I'll let you guys know. Again, you'll find out if you like and subscribe when I make a post about it on YouTube. I'm pretty good about that. I'm trying to get better at it at least. But anyways, guys, you have a great night. You guys are awesome as always. I appreciate all the regulars. I appreciate Big Ten for becoming a member, and I appreciate you, Corbin, for donating as well. So go give Corbin a shout out as well if you haven't already. All right, guys, you all take care. Have a great evening. I will see you Friday, 7 p.m.